Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. So I am happy and slightly narcissistic to announce that I was barely right. Canada and the US almost went into a trade/tariff war, but they did not like I predicted. I was so shaky on my prediction, I started preemptively saying I was wrong on the show. So I am happy to see that it didn't actually happen, not just to keep my prediction record up, but also because it would have been absolutely awful for Canadians if we got into a trade war with the United States. This whole thing could have been avoided if back in September, Justin Trudeau didn't fart around and actually talk to Donald Trump about border security. A lot of people are going to say this wasn't about border security. Well, then why was the phone call between Justin Trudeau and Donald Trump that ended this thing all about border security? People kept pointing to falsely that Trump kept saying that he wants Canada to be the 51st state, that he doesn't care about whether or not we secure the border, that he's doing this because of trade imbalances. Yes, Trump says a lot of stuff. By the way, always follow the rule that you take Trump seriously, but you do not take him literally. Canada kept taking him so literally that we wasted tons of time talking about Canada 51st, why Canada should be its own country and whatnot. That was never actually the problem. That was never the issue at hand. The issue was always border security, which, if you looked at Trump's officials who actually know on pen and paper what Trump wants, they kept saying border security and you guys don't spend enough on military and we're flipping the bill for you. I don't even agree with Trump when he argues that we have a trade imbalance with Canada. There's literally no country that any country has a trade balance with. Either you are sending them more stuff or you are buying more stuff from them, unless you sat down and tried to have an accountant figure out how much stuff you had to buy from each country to keep it at a net zero trade relationship. Countries trade with each other because they can get something cheaper from them or they don't produce something and they're buying it. That is the only reason that countries have trade imbalances, and it's perfectly legitimate. But that's just a side issue. Trudeau's a weakling. This entire thing showed he's politically inept. And by the way, Mark Carney and Doug Ford are so screwed right now. Doug Ford might still be able to win a majority government, but his entire reason for calling the early Ontario provincial election is gone. He called this thing, even though he's not the Prime Minister of Canada and doesn't need a new mandate to negotiate with the US President. Even Trudeau doesn't need a new mandate to negotiate. You have a mandate. Everyone expects that in your mandate, you're going to negotiate with other countries. But Ford decided that as the Premier of Ontario, he needed a new mandate because there was something going on with the US that isn't even going on anymore and barely had anything to do with him. Guys, if you live in Ontario, please vote for the New Blue Party of Ontario. Check them out. I have them linked in the description below and pinned at the bottom of the comments. If you don't have a new blue candidate in your riding, consider running for them, honestly. Even if you're just going to be a paper candidate, if there's nobody else, have a real conservative option on the table. Do you guys like Pierre Poilievre and the federal conservatives? If you do, New Blue is basically the one-to-one provincial version of the federal conservatives. The PCs in Ontario are basically like the federal liberals. It's crazy how bad they are. But moving on to Mark Carney was begging for this tariff war. He wanted it because it was the only crisis that he could kind of deflect from the terrible liberal record. Mark Carney wanted this fight because it would make him seem like a strong, reasonable man to negotiate with Trump. And Poilievre is too much like Trump, so you can't vote for him, even though whenever we compare Trump and Poilievre, really you're just saying that a conservative in one country is like a conservative in another country. Trump, if he was in Canada, would be a perfectly mainstream option. The thing is that Trump is an American president, so he seems out of step with Canada because he's not Canada's president. He's not Canada's prime minister. He does his own thing and he doesn't care about Canada's interests because that's not his job. I would like a Canada first politician to actually care about our interests. The ridiculous thing is, and this demonstrates the stupidity of so many of our politicians, as this tariff war looked like it was going to be real, and I thought it was going to be real at one point, who was out there proposing that we should cut taxes, proposing that we should cut regulations? maybe cutting wasteful government spending and not hiring as many useless workers into the federal government. Nah, nah. Provincial governments were hiring hundreds of new people to work what we can literally say are fake jobs. Jobs which, if they went away, nobody would miss. We never did any of that because, nah, we'd rather delve headfirst into socialism. Let's take American liquor off our liquor store shelves because that will solve the problem. It's not like we should, one, try and secure the border, and two, try and lower taxes so we're more competitive. Let's pretend, hypothetically, we actually do secure the border. We spend 3% of our GDP on defense like we were proposing to do. We do all that. And that's still not good enough for Trump. Let's just pretend Trump wasn't being reasonable at all and he wasn't going to be satisfied with anything. Why wouldn't we cut taxes? Why would we not try and make ourselves more competitive? That's what we should do. But the problem is, in this country, we are stuck with the worst politicians possible. So all they wanted to do in response to Trump's tariff war was retaliatory tariffs, which all it does is it kicks the consumer in Canada in the head so the government gets to feel better about fighting the US. And McKinsey and other lobby groups were actually pushing for dollar for dollar tariffs and celebrating it as a good thing because it would get the government more money and by proxy their lobby group. Lobby groups need to be like borderline banned in this country. It's nuts how much they stump against the Canadian taxpayer and they demand more bloated government budgets so that their friends and their people that they work for, the people they lobby for, can get more money for doing literally nothing, like pencil sharpening quality work. Anyways, that's it for me today, guys. I'll see you around later. I just wanted to react to what was going on with the US trade war. I just happened to be wearing like a suit and tie during this whole thing, so I seem rather dapper to talk about this breaking piece of news. But hopefully you guys like the show. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all that great stuff. Talk to you guys later.